Hello, and welcome to the TWSN Patreon page. Here we will provide you with the sports betting tips, picks, and information in order for you to become a successful gambler. We have 5 packages that I think really do an incredible job of providing the information tailored to you, what you want, and what your sports betting needs are. For more information, reach out to the TWSN team, but we have a ton of stuff coming your way. Content from fantasy football, sports betting for UFC, NBA, NHL, and of course, the NFL. We are so excited to be able to bring this service to you, and let us know if there's any more information you need.
Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now because it's the place that it all goes down on.
Welcome back to the Wrightway Kickoff Show, Week 2. We already saw Week 1, amazing week, and we're expecting another great week of football here at TWSN. You heard the promo right there. We have our TWSN Patreon up. You want to make some money week in, day out, subscribe to that. But also follow us on all our social medias because we have plenty of analysts, plenty of writers putting out great content, putting out great predictions. So keep up with us for that as well. So follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the whole 9 yards. But with that said, you see the crew right here. We got Matt, Marissa, Max, Chris, and Aidan, 5 of the best football minds I know. So let's dive right into this one. Week 2 of the NFL, and we are going to open up with the Bills at the Dolphins. The Bills are 3-point favorites. So Marissa, as our Bills beat writer, what are your thoughts on this game?
This is going to be the Bills' get-right game. Things did not go their way in Week 1. They had the block punt. They couldn't really find any rhythm on offense. They had 4 fumbles. 1 actually did not get recovered. I liked what I saw from the defense. The defensive line against the Steelers were able to generate pressure, but it was the Bills' offense that could not find a rhythm at all. I think that they find the rhythm in this game. Statistically speaking, the Bills in the last 5 appearances against the Dolphins have been phenomenal. Josh Allen has gone off, averaging close to 300 yards per game, throwing through the air. So I really think as long as they can reduce the amount of fumbles, find that rhythm, and they should really be able to get things going against the Dolphins and win pretty comfortably today.
And I guess, Matt, I'm going to kick this one to you. You were the only man on the TWSN NFL Picks crew to actually bet against the Bills last week. Are you going to be betting against them this week too?
So this was actually one of the harder games that I had when I was making my picks because I really liked what I saw from the Dolphins. I know the Patriots made some mistakes, but no, I'm not betting against the Bills again today. The Bills are the better team, and I really do not see them losing 2 games to open this season. Josh Allen gets back on track today with, I think it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a hard-fought win against the division opponent. For the Dolphins, Tua needs to play better. And if he can, this Dolphins team can go places. They're coached really well. And also, if the Dolphins win this game, they are 2-0 in the division, and that is huge to open the season. But no, I'm going with the Bills today. Josh Allen gets back on track.
Yeah, I like the Bills' performance last week. Not a very good one. I was on the phone with a friend last night. He was rewatching the game, and we were kind of talking about it. And a lot of the things are just, I feel like they're Week 1 things, or maybe they're just a one-off for Josh Allen. The guy's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Those things happen. They won't happen again. And I think the Bills need this game more than Miami. Miami made their statement last week. Division's going to be reset. Max, I'm seeing a look, but I'm going to be honest. I'm taking the Bills here, and I'm feeling pretty comfortable about it.
Yeah, I mean, here's the look. The reason why I gave you that is because this game means so much to the Dolphins just as much as it means to the Bills, in my opinion, because like Matt just mentioned, 2-0 beating 2 divisional rivals this early in the year is huge for this football team. Listen, I'm speaking as a fan, and I'm speaking for the fans right now and saying the expectations for this football team are pretty high this year, okay? We have been rebuilding for 3 years for this team. This is a team we expect to at least make the playoffs and hopefully compete. Last week, as I told you guys, I predicted the Dolphins to win that game, not necessarily in the fashion. That was kind of a close one, but I figured the Dolphins were a better football team and at this current moment are a better football team than the New England Patriots. I think a lot of it was just the defense stepped up. I think the defense was incredible. As you know, they're the ones that, Xavier Howard forced a fumble from Damian Harris at the end of the game there. I think they had a really good overall game. I think Tua if you add the context, terrible protection from the offensive line. The offensive line did not give him any help there. And also credit to the defensive front seven of the Patriots. They got pressure on him all day. But Tua, I think with that context, played pretty well, actually. That interception, in my opinion, was kind of a fluky one. That was one of these that he just tried throwing it out of bounds. It was a weird one. But in general, I think he made really good decisions throwing the football. And I expect him to do that today. I think the biggest question mark for him and for the Dolphins really is, can the offensive line improve? Austin Jackson's coming in after being on the COVID list. How much of an improvement does he provide? And I think they just need to give him the protection necessary to make the decisions. Look, I know Will Fuller is out for personal reasons, but the receiving core has improved this year, right? These are playmakers that are going to get open down the field, and I trust that Tua can get him the football. We just need to give him the time to do that. So I like the Bills today. I think the Bills coming off a loss are a dangerous football team, but I expect the Dolphins to really make this competitive and show out for the home fans today.
All right. This is going to be one of the game of the week. I'm still taking the Bills in this one just because I think the Bills know 0-2 to a team like Miami. Not that my point wasn't that it's not important for Miami. It's just the Bills know 0-2. It's going to be hard to come back against a Miami team that hard. But Aidan, I want to ask you something specific about this Bills team, right? Last week we saw Devin Singletary 11 carries, 72 yards against pretty good Steelers defense. Pretty good might even be underwhelming them. But this week you're getting Zach Moss back, right? And this is going to be one of the fantasy things you have to watch all year because both these running backs have some upside to them, some skill to their game. This backfield split can mean a lot from a fantasy perspective. I'm sitting there. I'm saying I see Singletary as the better receiver, but I feel like Moss is going to be in a lot of that short yardage goal line workload where I feel like they couldn't do each other's overall fantasy value. But how do you look at this backfield split?
I stay away from both of them. I was staying away from them in drafts and this week against one of the better defenses in the league in the Miami Dolphins. When the Bills get into the red zone, they like to pass the football. They like to run it with Josh Allen, and they're generally just not a team that likes to run the football at all. So Zach Moss, he's going to get limited volume in the run game, and then Devin Singletary's taking the passing snaps, but there's a lot of mouths to feed in that passing game. So I'm just staying away from both these guys. Singletary will get the passing work. Moss will get a majority of the running work, but neither of them, unless they score a touchdown, will bring too much fantasy value this week.
All right, with that said, let's move on to game 2, and I'm a little bit surprised by the line I'm about to say. The Rams are only 3.5-point favorites over the Indianapolis Colts after a resounding performance on Sunday Night Football. The Colts, I get they've been injury-ridden, but still far from amazing last week. I honestly was expecting maybe a 5-6 point line here, and 3.5. Matt or Chris, actually, I'm going to go to you here. I feel like I'd hammer Rams all the way here, even on the road.
Yeah, I do like the Rams here. I think maybe they're expecting the Colts to be a little bit healthier. Obviously, they think maybe they can neutralize that defense. I believe Eric Fisher is going to be making his Colts debut today. The talk really all week has been Quentin Nelson versus Aaron Donald. Who's going to win? Potentially one of the best offensive linemen in the game versus very well maybe the best player in the game, in Aaron Donald. So I think that'll be a huge matchup. I do like the Rams here. I think that offense is going to be too much for that Colts defense. I think that Colts defense, that secondary is too thin. I don't see him keeping up with some of the threats that the Rams have. Especially Stafford showed that he can play this bootleg play-action offense. He can roll out if he needs to. He can sit back, wait for that deep route to get open. And I think the deep route is going to get open in this game. And like I said, the Rams defense is just too good. I just don't see Carson Wentz with, I think we've talked about, I think Paris Campbell's out for the Colts. They're a little banged up too in that offense. So I think that would be a safe play to hammer that the Rams -3.5.
And Matt, I'm going to go to you here because we could talk about, as much as we talk about the betting part of like the overall line, last week we saw Robert Woods basically get shut down. Cooper Kupp hits every player prop possible. And I feel like this is one of those weeks where we're going to see a very high octane attack where I honestly feel like both of these guys are going to go absolutely crazy for the Rams.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going Rams all the way here. McVay finally got his quarterback. There were so many years of Jared Goff just not playing up to his potential. And you saw it after the first series last week. McVay was hugging Matt Stafford. Stafford was laughing. Like, this Rams team, they look like they're having fun. And I am just so happy for Matthew Stafford. He finally is in a winning situation. I've liked him since he came out of college. For the Colts, they've been banged up. Wentz didn't look great last week. He was okay. But even at home, I'm taking the road team here. The Rams look like a true Super Bowl contender, and I think they're going to win easily today.
I think we're all in agreement on that. And before I go on to the next game, just want to remind you guys, if you have any gambling questions, fantasy football questions, whatever you have, leave them here in the comment section. We got a pool of analysts here who can answer pretty much anything you have on your mind. With that said, let's go to what CEO Malik Wright called the highest scoring game of the week. The Saints are 3-point favorites against the Panthers. Week 2 of the Sam Darnold experience and no Marshawn Lattimore, and this is a dangerous Panthers receiving core. Max, does this game scream upset to you?
Absolutely, it does. I like the Panthers to win this game. I think this is kind of a, show me what you're really all about, Jameis Winston kind of game. Not to say that I don't think he'll play well. I just think, the 5 touchdowns and under 200 yards of passing was a little misleading. So let's, this is a real defense they're playing now in the Panthers, especially in the secondary. I expect Dante Jackson to have a good game. I expect Brian Burns to have a good game. I just think that while the Saints should score some points, because I think that they still have a pretty respectable offense, I just like Carolina here in the divisional rivalry game. I think Sam Darnold's going to have himself a pretty solid day. Obviously, people aren't talking about him, but I think Christian McCaffrey is a huge factor for the Panthers. He's going to have himself a game. And honestly, look, people aren't talking about this either. There's huge injury concerns in the secondary for the Saints. And I think that in a Joe Brady-led system, I think I trust Sam Darnold to throw the football effectively. I think he has the receivers to get open, to be successful. And Robbie Anderson only had one catch, and that was for a 57-yard touchdown last week. So I expect him to have a good game. Obviously, DJ Moore is incredible. So I don't know. I'm leaning Panthers. I expect them to win and to cover here.
I'm going Saints. I'm going to be honest. The coaching is the difference for me. I'm still taking Sean Payton as a coach over Matt Rule. And we talk about how good of an offensive mind Joe Brady is. Sean Payton supersedes him there as well. Gut feeling here is telling me stick Saints, but the NFC South for most of our life has been one of those divisions where it could be a crapshoot. You never know who's going to win. Obviously, this year Tampa Bay is the odds-on obvious favorite. But when these teams play each other, anything could happen, right? Didn't the Saints beat Tampa Bay twice in the regular season last year, and then Tampa takes them in the playoffs? NFC South is one of my favorite divisions to watch year in, year out, and today's game is going to be another example of that. And just the guy to watch this week is Paulson Adebo on the Saints side, because he's going to third-round pick out of Stanford, can do a lot of ball skills. Really good when he has a 50-50 or can get up there and has a chance to make a play, but a little over-aggressive, has a tendency to make some mistakes, and going up against deep threats like Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, like we said, can do some crazy things. Even Terrace Marshall Jr., there's the chance for him to get exposed today. He's going to be the boomer bust of that team today, and if he could boom, that Saints defense will be fine. But if he busts, Sam Darnold's going to throw for a few touchdowns. It's going to be a problem, in my opinion. But, Aidan, let me get your take on this game as well before we go on to the next one.
This is one of the toughest games of the week for me. I really like the Panthers heading into this year. I could see them upsetting the New Orleans Saints today, but I am going to give the Saints the slight edge. I do see Jameis Winston coming back down to earth a little bit, but I think Alvin Kamara has a big game. I think they run with him a lot. Paulson Adebo was good last week. I'm kind of leaning more boom there. That may backfire on me, but I don't know. I think this is going to be a good game. I agree, a high-scoring game as well, but I'm going to lean the Saints.
All right, with that said, now we're going to go to the next week. The 49ers are traveling cross-country to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Philadelphia Eagles, Niners won last week. Eagles, resounding win over the Atlanta Falcons. But it's the Atlanta Falcons. So, in my opinion, you have to take it somewhat with a grain of salt. You take what's good out of it, but you have to put a limited expectation on it. But, Marissa, I know you're high on Nick Sirianni, this Eagles team. Give me your thoughts here.
Yeah, I really like what Nick Sirianni has done with this team. He's tailored the team's strengths to the players. And when you do that, the team can really excel. The players have been able to see what Nick Sirianni has done, and they're going to want to fight for him. They're going to want to play very, really well. And sure, they won against the Falcons, take that as you will. They're not really going to be that great this year, in my opinion. But the 49ers almost lost to the Detroit Lions. They ran out of steam at the end. The Eagles kept at full steam throughout the entire game. So I'd give the slight edge to the Eagles in this one. I think it's going to be a really close one, in my opinion, and I think it comes down to a field goal, possibly maybe even overtime. But the culture there for the Eagles is what gives me the edge for the Eagles to win this one.
I'm going to be honest with you, Marissa. Like, I'm still just sleeping on the Eagles as a whole. Jalen Hurts looked good last week. Did not do anything really overly special, in my opinion. I think the Niners had the defense to contain him. That really worries me is the secondary. Like, I think he'll get, Devontae Smith will get his. Maybe Jalen Reagor will get a little bit in there. But as a whole, this Niners team will be able to run all over the Eagles. Elijah Mitchell looked great last week. Maybe we'll finally see some Trey Sermon in there. Deebo Samuel will get his on the secondary. They have nothing that can counteract George Kittle. Garoppolo is the less turnover prone of the two QBs. In my opinion, this one, I'm taking 49ers to cover, and I get what you're saying about how they ran out of steam last week, but I don't think that's uncommon at the NFL level when you go up by like 30 points early. You kind of retreat, you go into prevent, and you start playing not to lose, not playing to win. But the better team still won the game. So that's kind of where I stand on it. But Chris, where do you stand here?
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of interesting how you would think that the 49ers would be a lot favored in this game because I think on paper you would see the 49ers have the better team. I do think people are buying into that Eagles, which I think you can. I do think the Falcons very well could be the worst team in the league this year. So I think the Eagles just beat up on them. But I don't think this Eagles team is bad. I think they have the chance to be good. Jalen Hurts shows that he can do. He can have some success. It looks like they're using the receivers in the right way, trying to get them more involved, which I think is a big plus. But I just like the 49ers in this game. I just think on paper, they're going to be the better team. I think they're going to pose an issue for the Eagles in this one. One thing to keep in mind is this 49ers secondary is pretty banged up. I believe Josh Norman is starting for them today. I mean, last time we saw Josh Norman, I feel like he was getting stiff-armed by Derrick Henry. So I'm not entirely sure how that's going to go for them in this game. But in my opinion, I just don't see the Eagles being a deep threat team. I think they're a team that's really going to run a lot of screens, run a lot of short plays, and I think that's not going to really exploit the 49ers secondary. So I like the 49ers in this game.
Yeah, no, I agree. The biggest thing right now is that Josh Norman is starting at cornerback for the 49ers, so that's a little bit of a worry. He's not exactly in his 2014 Panthers form anymore. But once again, I still think – sorry, Will Lachlan is giving you much-deserved pun credit, Chris. But I'm still taking 49ers all the way here. But with that said, let's go on to the Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders, who played a memorable Monday Night Football game and one of the most confusing football games I've ever watched in my entire life. And we'll be taking on the Steelers, who after a big win last week have the chance to go 2-0. And in the division like the AFC North, where you have the Ravens, who are now 0-1, the Browns, who are 0-1, the Bengals happen to be 1-0. Not the happiest about that. Like I said last week, anti-Bengals agenda with all the Bengals love we have here at TWSN. No offense to you guys. But the Steelers had the chance to go 2-0 against the Raiders, and I think they do it. This team screams first-half team to me, just like last season. It's how long can Ben's arms stay there? How long can they be productive on the passing attack? And then hopefully that supplements the running attack because Najee Harris is eventually bound to get his. But I think the Steelers win here. What about you, Max?
Yeah, I think the Steelers will win and should win. Now, the only question I have is will they cover? I mean, last time I checked, the spread was at 6.5. I think that's too big. I think look, the Raiders just beat the Ravens last week. Obviously, I don't think the Raiders are a better football team than the Steelers, so I think the Steelers should be favored. But 6.5, especially in an NFL game, that's a little bit large for me. So I think my prediction would be Steelers win the football game, but I expect the Raiders to cover.
Yeah, 6-point spreads, especially where it's like not an overwhelming talent difference. There's something you usually got to stay away from, in my opinion. I don't love touching spreads that high. But Marissa, I'll kick this one up to you. What are your thoughts on this game?
I think it goes to the Steelers. I think it's going to be a really trench warfare type game. And what I saw out of the Raiders, it wasn't completely great on Monday night. And what I saw with the Steelers defense, it looked a lot better. It looked like the Steelers defense we saw last year. And against that Raiders O-line, I think it's going to be very defensive for the Steelers. And I think you're going to see Najee Harris really break out this game and get more production than he did against the Bills. So I think, again, it comes down really to the trenches. And the Steelers just have the better trenches in this game for me.
I can't disagree at all. Now, let's go on to the Steelers' division rival, the Cleveland Browns, who are 12.5-point favorites over the Texans at home today. And I'm going to be honest, Chris, I wouldn't touch this one because I still don't. I think last week was a fluke for the Texans, but the fact that we've only seen one game and it was overwhelmingly positive makes this 12.5 something I wouldn't touch.
Yeah, I think it's definitely interesting. I don't know really how the Texans are going to play this year. I really think the Jaguars just have a really bad defense. They had a terrible defense last year. They really couldn't stop the run last year, facing a mobile quarterback in Tyrod Taylor last week. And I just think that they just weren't able to stop them. So, I mean, the Browns have a much better defense with the amount of talent they have. Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney. So it's going to be a tough task for the Texans in this one. Like I said, I wouldn't touch the spread. I think there's a chance the Texans could cover. I need to see more about them until I can start touching a spread that large. I'm not entirely sure if they're going to be able to stay in the game like they did with the Jaguars and run away with it. Obviously, I definitely have the Browns win this game. I think they're going to be able to score at will against the Texans defense that's very depleted. But I think the Texans will be able to get some points on the board as well.
And Aidan, what are your thoughts here? Would you touch that 12.5 point spread, or would you just kind of let it be?
If you want to go for like a big parlay or something like that, sure, go for it. But as I like what you said, Shaun. It's been one game and it was overwhelmingly positive for the Houston Texans. Now, I think the Cleveland Browns win pretty handily here, so I wouldn't mind if you go for it. I could see them winning by 14, 17 points in this game. But it's certainly not something that I'd feel super comfortable with. The Browns are going to be able to run all over, pass all over, do whatever they want to this Texans defense. And the Texans offense just doesn't wow me. Like, from a fantasy perspective, the one player I might feel okay starting today is Brandon Cooks, because when Cooks is healthy, he does produce. Now, I'm a bit concerned because he is going up against Denzel Ward. I still think he'll be able to get open, but Tyrod Taylor, too, with all the pressure getting in his face, I just don't know how this is going to go. But, yeah, I'm taking the Browns very, very easily here.
Okay, and let's go on to the man, the myth, the legend, Mackenzie McCorkle-Jones, otherwise known as Mac Jones. Pretty good performance from him last week. The Patriots are 6-point favorites against the Jets today. And I'll be honest, sorry. Sorry about that. Happens, allergies. But I'll take the Patriots. Patriots are 6-point favorites, and I said it before the show. While I'm really confident in what we're see from Mac Jones, reports are saying he took his preparation. The Patriots have been really impressed with it to another level. Like, I'm thinking Mac Jones goes off 3 touchdowns today, 280 plus yards. Like, I really think this is the statement breakout game for Mac Jones against a Jets defense that has no secondary, lacks a pass rush, happens to start some linebackers, but CJ Mosley isn't what CJ Mosley was in Baltimore. So I'm really thinking big game for Mac Jones, but I'm also really, really worried about Zach Wilson today. I said it before the game. Today is the type of game where Zach Wilson, you watch it, like even last week, he's not overwhelmingly positive in the statistics or fantasy football category. But if you look at the film, you saw some really nice stuff from Zach Wilson. I think it's the same thing here today. Matt, what are you really looking into in this game?
I just want to see consistency from the Patriots. I think they let that game slip away from them last week. Credit to the Dolphins for winning that game, but I do think that if Mac Jones had had a few more games under his belt, the Patriots probably win that game. And to be honest, the Jets didn't look that great against the Panthers. I mean, Zach Wilson had some moments, and I think he'll have a better year as the year goes on. But I see this game being a close game just because it's 2 rookie quarterbacks, and you can never count that aspect out. You just never know what you're going to get from rookies half the time. And I'm going to give the edge to the Patriots here. Just they have a better defense, better coaching staff. So I'm giving the Patriots their first win of the season here.
Okay, so the spread's at 6 then. You're saying it's going to be a close game. Is this something you bet on?
I don't know. I'd probably stay away from this game just because of the rookies. I don't like betting with rookies just because you just never know what's going to happen. There's a lot of times they're just very inconsistent.
Chris, I'm going to kick this down to you, but I've always said the biggest thing for rookies is the mental part of it, and I think Mac Jones is well beyond rookie mentality, if that makes sense. I think he saw some rookie moments last week, but mentally, against a defense this bad, this defense is half of what Miami was last week. I'm expecting Mac to really do his thing.
Yeah, I do expect a big game from him. I think this is an opportunity for him. The Jets are being up too. They had some injuries before the season, so they're not playing at full strength right now. And I think he has the right receivers there for him who are able to do. It's really like they have a good system in place right now for him before he can start, leading the offense on his own and reading the defense. It's important to note that Ramondre Stevenson, who had a fumble in his first carry last week, he's out this week. So expect J.J. Taylor to come in. He was inactive. last week, but he's a really explosive guy, can hit the edge fast. They're probably going to mix him, try to take the load off of Damian Harris a little bit, try not to give him as many carries as he had last week. I believe he had 20 carries last week, 23 carries. Yeah, I like the Patriots here. I think we talked about how the Jets have a couple receivers out. It's going to be tough for Zach Wilson. I really don't want to bet the spread on the Patriots because I still need to see more from the Patriots. That defense, it's better, but I'm not entirely sure. The secondary didn't look that strong against the Dolphins. They kind of just got eaten alive by slants and all these short routes. They don't have Stephon Gilmore yet. He's hopefully going to come back after 6 weeks. But I'm not sure how the secondary is going to hold up even against receivers, backup receivers. And also Kyle Van Noy is out today. And I think Kyle Van Noy is going to be a big part of this defense this year. He's a big at QB contain. He can run around, hold a quarterback, make a play. I think that would come in handy with Kyle Van Noy. Against Zach Wilson, who maybe try to get out here and there. So I really wouldn't touch the spread. I do have the Patriots winning outright. I'm going to wait to see how this Patriots defense progresses as we go along. They have obviously just this week a doable matchup. Saints next week. We'll see how the Saints play against the Panthers this week. See if that will be a tough test for them. And then the Buccaneers after that. So I think after 3 or 4 weeks, I think we'll be able to tell how good this Patriots defense actually is.
I think when they get Gilmore back and they're at full strength, I said it before, and I'll say it again, I think it'll be the top unit in this league. Like, I think Bill Belichick with all the versatility, the Duggars, the Jalen Mills, even in the pass rushing, the guys like Josh Uche, who's the guy they signed from Baltimore this offseason?
Matt Judon.
Thank you, Matt Judon. I think the speed and versatilities those guys bring, I think that's going to be something that offenses aren't going to be able to stop. But I would honestly feel comfortable betting Patriots spread. Maybe I'm just weirdly high on Mac Jones, but like Chris said, if you follow the formula Dolphins went last week, Elijah Moore could be in for a breakout game today. I think Corey Davis will get some touches, maybe 5 catches, 60 yards. Whoever gets the touchdown will be the big fantasy boom on the Jets. But if they can eat up on short passes, screens, try to get something after the catch, Elijah Moore is the guy you go with right there. But now we go to the Denver Broncos, 6-point favorites over the lowly Jacksonville Jaguars. I liked what I saw from Denver last week against the Giants. They forced Daniel Jones, to be honest. Had a turnover too. Von Miller had a nice return game. Bradley Chubb was nice. This defense is going to be pretty good. Can Teddy limit the mistakes? But Trevor Lawrence has something to him. The Broncos are a 6-point spread, and at home, I think the Jaguars cover. Max, what do you think?
I completely agree. I think the Jaguars 6 is too big of a gap, in my opinion. I think the Jags cover. I do think the Broncos will win the game because I think at the end of the day, they are a better football team. And it bothers me as a Clemson guy that Trevor Lawrence has that terrible protection because it is not doing him any favors. He is having to throw the ball too quickly. And as you saw last week, there was some success because he did throw 3 touchdowns, but he did also throw 3 interceptions. So there's the growing pains, and I think a lot of it is attributed to the lack of protection there. But no, I think the Jags are going to make this a competitive game, but I'm going to go Broncos to win outright. I just think the Jaguars might be the worst team in the NFL this year, and a lot of it is just growing pains all around. It's a very young team, terrible defense, rookie head coach in the NFL, but I'm interested to see if they can keep this one competitive.
Actually, speaking of Urban Meyer being a rookie head coach, Matt's also on our college football show, the college tailgate show every Saturday. Matt, what do you make of the Urban Meyer USC rumors, and what effect do you think that can maybe have on the Jaguars locker room?
I mean, it's not a great sign when after 1 week people are already calling for Urban Meyer to leave the NFL and go back to college. And then that press conference he had the other day where the media asked him about it. He just kind of he was looking down. He was looking away from the reporters being like, oh, there's no chance, guys. I'm here to stay. I think that does play a role because his body language said everything. I would not be shocked if in a few weeks he steps down or something happens and he ends up going to USC because that's just what we've seen from Urban Meyer throughout his career. Something comes up and he leaves. I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but I think it would be the perfect situation for him to leave the NFL and go back to college because the USC job is one of the best in the country. And he kind of looked overmatched. I know it was 1 week, but just the things he said in the media over training camp and everything, I think that does play some role because especially these professional players. They want to know that this guy's all bought in, and he didn't seem like he was, at least to me.
Oh, these guys had their futures on the line. Like, I really wouldn't have brought it up on the show, to be honest, if it wasn't for that midweek press conference where he was asked about it. Even the reporter who asked it was like, I want to give you an opportunity to deny these rumors, and he didn't do it convincingly. Like, I wouldn't have asked a question like that. I'm a fan of, in the media, you just ask it blunt, right? I'm a fan of, there are these rumors. How legit are they? And then boom. And the reporter basically gave him a softball version of it. And then he did that. And we have Chase here. He was active in the comment section last week. He said, Urban's run going to be worse than Saban. I really felt like he wanted this, but the pro level, you don't have a lot of control. These dudes have money and don't need to get drafted. Honestly, I think Saban was overhated on as an NFL head coach, not to be rude to Max, but look at what the Dolphins did the years after Saban. It wasn't like the Dolphins got better once Saban left. They got worse once Saban left. It was just a bad situation, in my opinion, Nick Saban walked into. But I completely agree. I think Urban Meyer, I think the mistake is you can't give head coaches, especially college coaches, roster opportunity. Chip Kelly is the biggest example. He trades LaShawn McCoy for Kiko Alonso. In my opinion, one of the worst trades in recent memory. And Urban Meyer having control over drafting over the entire roster is something that Trent Baalke and this Jaguars upper management made a mistake doing. If they just let Urban Meyer coach and do his thing, or made a clear boundary on what that is, I would be more optimistic for the future. But I think Urban Meyer slowly but surely, like the Travis Etienne pick bothered me, not based off of talent, based off the fact that they're trying to make him the new Percy Harvin. He's not going to be the new Percy Harvin. Etienne's a running back, in my opinion. But not really a big fan of what Urban's been doing. And I don't disagree with Chase here. I don't think Urban Meyer is going to pan out at this point at the NFL level. But now we go on to the Chicago Bears playing the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bears are 2.5-point favorites after a rough loss, and the Bengals are underdogs after a resounding win. And I just want to shout out my man Nader here, a Bears fan, in the comment section. You can read it right there. He's talking his stuff. His day is public enemy number 1 at TWSN in here. He said, same, Shaun, same. You guys all better be rooting for Chicago. So, Max, Bears minus 2.5. You betting it?
I wouldn't bet it, but I do think the Bears are going to win outright. Look, I'm the only one on the TWSN analysts that do the picks that have taken the Bears here. It's kind of an ugly one, I will admit, because the Bengals did look really good last week, and I expect them to look good this week. But the thing is, the Bears, that they happened to, be unlucky. They played the Rams. They looked horrible against the Rams, but most teams are going to look horrible against the Rams. So let's put things back into perspective. They're coming back. The Bengals are coming from a huge win against the Minnesota Vikings. It was their home opener. Like I mentioned last week, I still think there's a few holes on that football team, but I expected them to win because of, the crowd's back. Finally the Bengals look like they're a solid football team. And I do think they have a promising future. But the Bears also got the opposite of that. They were, they just looked bad against the Super Bowl contender, in my opinion, the second best team in the league right now. An incredible defense, a really hot offense, Matthew Stafford's debut. Things are going to settle for both teams. I think the Bears are going to play well enough to win this football game. I think the Bengals are going to give them a tough time, but I think the Bears defense looked horrible last week. I don't think they're that bad. I don't think they regressed as badly as everyone says they have. I think there's still questions about that offensive line for Cincinnati. And I think when you have Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks, on the opposite side of the football, putting pressure on Joe Burrow, I think Joe Burrow is going to have a tough time, and that offensive line is going to have a hard time coping with it. Therefore, I think the Bears are going to edge them out in a close one.
So, Aidan, I'm now going to kick this over to you. What are your expectations in the Red Rifle revenge game? What's Andy Dalton going to do tonight?
My expectations aren't that high. They aren't. I'm not big on Andy Dalton at this point in his career. You'll see some Justin Fields sprinkled in, but with Andy Dalton as the primary quarterback for the Bears, I just don't see them winning this football game. He looked bad last week, and I understand the protection's not great and all of this stuff, but if I'm the Chicago Bears, I'm just relying on David Montgomery in this game. And that's not to say, Allen Robinson's not going to get open. We shouldn't throw the football at all. they're going to have to. But Dave Montgomery, as Chase said in the comments, was a beast last week. I had him in fantasy, and I was so happy about it because Montgomery's fighting for every yard he could get, and he was getting those yards. Just a physical runner. He's really improved since his rookie season. Yeah, but my expectations are really low for Dalton today, and I wouldn't be shocked if he gets benched at some point.
I have a gut feeling. I almost feel like it might go to the detriment of the team because I don't think Dalton's going to be bad. I think Dalton's going to have a very workman-like performance. Like we're saying here, we're highlighting Montgomery, and Montgomery's worked on a lot of little nuances. He was a very up and down runner, I felt like, or downhill runner early on in his career, and that doesn't work unless you're Derrick Henry nowadays or Aaron Jones being a pure downhill runner. You need to, pat a little bit of juke, a little bit of sidestep, stuff to mislead the defense. But Chase said it right here too. Play calling needs to be perfect tonight. Play calling needs to be good. You need to get Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, who's a great talent in the best situations possible because Bengals secondary ain't that good in my opinion. And I think most people agree. Outside of a man named Jesse Bates, who's arguably the best safety in football, going to be a very rich man in the near future, I'm not in love with the Bengals secondary at all. And I think these receivers are going to be able to get there. So you establish the run, use that to open up Robinson, Mooney over the open field. I think that's the recipe. Control the clock tonight because the Bengals receiving trio, they'll get open eventually. They'll get their points. You need to control the clock, and you need to win your game. And I think Chase is right here. Joe Burrow looked awesome last week, and he was red zone in the game, but he wasn't too impressed. I wasn't overly impressed either. Honestly, they're a Dalvin Cook fumble away from being 0-1 right now if we want to be really blunt with it. But they did get the right breaks to go their way. Like Max said, a lot with the home crowd, but I'm taking the Bears here. I think the Bengals go 1-1 to start the season, but that's not a bad start in my opinion, especially in a division where the Steelers will likely be the only 2-0 team. For a Bengals team that's looking to shock people, 1-1 is a far from bad start, especially in two games where they weren't favorited. And if they go 2-0, that's an amazing start. But now we go to the Vikings, who are taking on the Arizona Cardinals, and the Cardinals are 3.5-point favorites at home. And Marissa, I'm going to start this one off with you because I'll bet Cardinals all the way on this one. I actually feel like this spread's generous to Minnesota. That Cardinals defense looked fantastic. Minnesota's secondary is pretty rough. I'm going all the way Cardinals spread.
I completely agree with you. That Vikings line last week against the Bengals could not hold up. They had a lot of penalties, and I think that's going to happen again today because they just looked out of rhythm. And that Cardinals defense could be one of the top defenses in the NFL this season. They were just on top of everything. Jones, I think he has, if not the same amount of sacks this week, just because of how in sync that defense is. They're going to stop the Vikings through the air and on the ground. And, I mean, you look at what they did with Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry only had 58 rushing yards last week. So if they can stop Derrick Henry, they can stop Dalvin Cook as well.
Yeah. No, not wrong at all. And Chris, I'm going to kick this one to you. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with Shaun Marissa here. I'm going with my moral lock of the week. Cardinals minus 3.5. I think this is a incredible and favorable matchup for them. They're at home, and I mean, you saw Chandler Jones last week, 5 sacks. I'm not expecting another 5 sacks from him this week. But that Vikings offensive line is banged up. They don't have Christian Darrisaw. He's going to be out for this game, so he was going to be their big reinforcement in the offensive line. The offensive line is not going to hold up. You got J.J. Watt on one side, Chandler Jones on the other side. Really, you're going to have to pick and choose one. You can't block both of them. You got to pick and choose one. The other guy's going to go off wherever you don't block. And I just don't think Kirk Cousins is going to have enough time in this game to get open. I think Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, everyone on that Cardinals offense is going to exploit that Vikings defense. I love Cardinals minus 3.5 here. That's my moral lock of the week. Last week I had Seahawks money line. They won, so going for my second moral lock win here.
No, I completely agree. I think Cardinals are the obvious bet here. The Cardinals look fantastic. Kyler looked like a new level. D-Hop's just D-Hop, bro. That guy's just too different. That guy can't be stopped. I don't care who you put on him. If his name's not Jalen Ramsey, he's not holding him to under 60 yards. D-Hop's just different. I love watching that man play football, but this one's Cardinals all the way. And speaking of one team all the way, the Buccaneers are 12.5-point favorites against the divisional rival, the Atlanta Falcons. 12.5 might be a little steep, but honestly, after seeing that performance against the Eagles last week, I think I'd take it. Aidan, what are your thoughts here? I I stay away from these spreads, but if I had to bet this game, I would feel comfortable betting Tampa Bay 2 touchdowns.
Well, I agree because I think when I saw that video of Tom Brady and he's got the 328 time locked on his computer screen, I'm like, they're going to win this week. The Falcons, they're bad. They were bad last week. The Buccaneers are one of the best teams in football. I'm going to take it. Like, I don't see a reason why not. I think the Buccaneers are going to kill the Falcons today. And again, when I saw that video, Tom Brady is like, he's locked in. They're not going to let this game slip away. I'd take it, honestly. And I'd honestly be more comfortable taking this than I would Browns-Texans.
I agree. And we have Chase here, Chase has spent a lot of facts in the comment section. I don't know if I'd say Matt Ryan is completely washed, because I think there's a lot of issues on this Falcons team. And I think a lot of them go 2 things. Running back. Offensive line is not amazing by any stretch of the imagination, but Mike Davis showed he's just not a very good running back, to be honest. And to use Cordell Patterson, a versatile Swiss Army knife, as a pure running back, not splitting him out wide, not really using him in the receiving game, that's a misuse of a very unique talent, in my opinion, and that, once again, is a problem. They were kind of force-feeding, I felt like, Calvin Ridley, which I can't blame them. I felt like they were not getting creative enough with Kyle Pitts or really using him enough, because that guy is completely special as well. But I think, honestly, the warning signs are there that Arthur Smith's just not a good head coach. I was never really an overly big fan. I liked what he did in Tennessee, but a lot of times when you see offensive play callers go in and and life was kind of simple for them at their old job, which it is when you have A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry, and the game plan is just run Henry. Life's simple. It's not as simple when you have Mike Davis leading your backfield. So I think the running game's a problem. The play calling was far from terrific. And when you have those things come together and you have a quarterback who lacks mobility and has an aging arm, it's not gonna look good. It's gonna be a bad look. And we already saw it week 1. And I think it'll continue week 2. That's why I'm saying I feel comfortable betting Buccaneers 12.5, because the coaching mismatch is as big of a disparity as a roster mismatch. And the roster here is bottom 3 in the league. Right, I was talking about the Jalen Hurts performance after the game last week, right. And I go to college in Eagles country. Eagles fans are like, "Oh, Jalen might as well be the next Donovan McNabb. Jalen's this, Jalen's that. Look how good he played." And I literally looked at someone. I was like, "Name me 3 good players on the Falcons defense." Room went silent, because there aren't 3 good players on this Falcons defense. There's Grady Jarrett, AJ Terrell's solid, Deion Jones okay. This Falcons defense isn't good, so of course Jalen tore him up, but the Falcons roster as a whole is bad. Rookie head coach, rookie GM. This is just a bad situation for Matt Ryan. Honestly, if I'm Matt Ryan, I'm requesting a trade right now. I'm trying to get out of there. If there's a veteran who needs me, that's great. Obviously, it's hard to make these in-season trades, but if an injury happens, I'm trying to get there ASAP. Oh, see, 3 players, Jones, Jarrett. Still not a great unit top to bottom. A good defense has 7, 8 players. This one, we're lucky to name 3. The roster's horrible. The coaching's inexperienced. The Falcons are just a mess all around, in my opinion. Just not a team that's fun to watch, to be honest. And it's kind of a shame, because Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts are fun to watch, and that's about it, along with Grady Jarrett when you get to watch the film. But with that said, let's go on to the Cowboys. Cowboys week 1 loss to the Buccaneers. The week 1 loss to the Buccaneers. The Chargers had a week 1 victory against the Washington football team. Now the Cowboys go to the West Coast. They take on the Chargers at home. Chargers are 3.5-point favorites. Max, I'll start this one off with you. What are your thoughts here?
Love this game. I think if you're a neutral, you're going to love this game. I love the over. The over is at 55. I think these are 2 very beatable defenses. 2 mediocre defenses, if I'm being totally honest. The loss of DeMarcus Lawrence makes that even more evident for the Cowboys. So that means that they're going to be relying less on their front 7 and more on their secondary. And their secondary, as we know, is below average. So that, and you have Justin Herbert in that high-powered offense. I think they're going to put up points. But you could say the same thing about the Cowboys. Look at what they did against the Bucs defense. This is a Super Bowl winning defense, guys. And Dak Prescott threw for over 400 yards and outplayed Tom Brady. He outplayed Tom Brady. He had an incredible game. And yes, Michael Gallup is a big loss for them. But when you have CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper on both sides of the field, and then you have Ezekiel Elliott, who I'm sure will, we're going to start seeing flashes of him being better. That's still an incredibly very talented offense. So I think that Dak Prescott is also going to be able to put up some points on it. What I would argue is a pretty questionable secondary outside of Derwin James. I just, so I love the over. I think it's going to be an incredibly entertaining game. I'm going to take the Cowboys because I'm riding the momentum. Really, really impressive loss. Although it was a loss, they played incredibly well. No one expected them to be competing like they did. And I think that Dak Prescott has a message to send to those people. Marissa did. I think, Dak Prescott has a message to send to his doubters, especially coming off a major injury. If week one was a sign of anything to come for this year, I think we're going to have a really, really good season for Dak Prescott. And I expect CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper to get the job done for the Cowboys today.
Okay, then I'm going to go to Marissa here. And Marissa, I honestly agree with this comment right here. Eckler needs more usage in the passing game. Allow him to, because if the front seven has to creep in on Eckler, it makes more room for Keenan Allen, Mike Williams down the field. It makes more room for those guys. Even Jared Cook out of the tight end spot too. But what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I'm personally high on the Cowboys. I had them as one of my top teams in the NFC to possibly even go to the Super Bowl this year. Their defense, it made improvements. I like what I saw in Micah Parsons week one. They're not really going to get much against the Buccaneers offensive line because that is a strong defensive line. So Zeke didn't really get much. And from the defensive point for the Cowboys, the offensive line, you're not really going to get as much pressure on Tom Brady, but they did it pretty effectively. And when they were able to get pressure, it caused them to throw 2 interceptions. So if you can do that against this dominant Bucs total team, I think the Cowboys will be able to do that throughout the year. And going against the Chargers today, Herbert looked impressive against Washington, but I don't think he's going to have as much success in a way, but I do have it being a shootout. But he's going to need to really get that going with what Chase said, Eckler. You need to have that offset between the passing and the rushing game, and they just did not have that in week one. So I have the Cowboys winning this.
Okay, now actually for the Matt, what do you have on this game?
I'm going with the Cowboys here. I do think this is one of the harder games to pick because I think both teams are capable of winning the game. But I really like what I saw from the Cowboys when they played the Buccaneers last week. Their defense did a decent job with Tom Brady. He threw a couple picks. I know one of them was the Hail Mary at the end at halftime. But, I really like what I saw from Dak Prescott. If he can play like that, Cowboys could go places this season. And I think I'm going to take the Cowboys here in a close game.
Okay. And now we're going to move on to the Tennessee Titans at the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are 6-point favorites here. And after this is a lot of spreads I'm not touching this week. Seattle is one of those. This team is just so inconsistent on the defensive side of the ball. The secondary bothers me. If Tennessee can get Derrick Henry going, A.J. Brown going, Julio going, I think they're going to make the big play to win it, to be honest. I actually think Tennessee's going to upset here. I'll be real. I don't love the Tennessee defense by any stretch. I also don't love the Seahawks defense. Gut feeling is telling me I'll take Tennessee to make that big play, get that big sack at the end. That is where I'm going with today. I'm going with the Titans to win outright, and that's a big upset pick, but that's where I'm going. Aidan, thoughts on this game?
I respect that, honestly. The Seahawks, I think their offense is going to be buzzing today again. They're going to have an awesome day. But the Tennessee Titans offense is also going to have a bounce-back game. I don't see Derrick Henry getting stuffed. I don't see A.J. Brown and Julio Jones in this passing attack having no success. They're going to be better. They're going to put up some points today. But again, Seattle's offense, I really like it this early in the year. They're going up against the Titans defense that frankly isn't that good. So I'm going to ride with the hot hand and go with Seattle, but I can really respect that upset pick.
Yeah, and I totally see where you're coming from. Seattle's favored for a reason, but Henry was held to 3.4 yards per carry against a defensive line that has J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones. And Chandler Jones has had one of the best defensive end performances of the 21st century. That's not going to happen again. There's nobody on Seattle's defense on their front 3 or 4. Their edge rushers, their defensive line that lines up to either of those guys. Bobby Wagner is the only elite player in this defense. Jamal Adams, when he's at his best, even his inconsistency has been a little bit of an issue over the past year or so. So I'm taking Tennessee here, but this is, in my opinion, this is actually my game of the week. This is that game where I really think this is going to be a 30-28 game. You're going to get 60 points here. But even though you're taking Seattle, do you feel comfortable with a 6-point spread?
Not really. Again, I can respect Tennessee. I think this is going to be that close game that you were talking about. You know how we expected Arizona and Tennessee to be this close, high-scoring game last week? I think we see that this week with Seattle and Tennessee. So my comfort level is iffy. I would stay away from it.
No, I'd completely stay away from it too. And Chris, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, for this game, I think we saw last week that the Titans, they're a team that if they get behind early, they're not going to win the game. We saw because they just can't. Derrick Henry is their offense. I know they have Julio Jones now, but Derrick Henry is their main offense. And really, they couldn't feed on the ball as much as they wanted to because they were just behind by so much. I really don't see that happening this week. I think they'll be able to hang in with the Seahawks. If I had to lean one way, I would lean the Seahawks. I wouldn't touch the spread. I just think Seahawks at home. This is going to be, I think, their first game back with fans. I don't know how many fans, if they're going to have full attendance, but I think that's going to be a big factor in this game. I think the Seahawks they're just a first half team. I think they play really well in the first half. They come back to earth in the second half, but I would lean Seahawks in this game, but I do expect the Titans to stay in it and not get blown out like they did last week.
No, I completely agree. And I just want to tell Chase I love him for agreeing with me. Chase, I love you, man. I've never met you, but I love you. But with that said, let's go to Sunday Night Football. We have what should be an electric factory of a game. We have the Chiefs going out east to play the Ravens after, like I said before, the Ravens, that was a hell of a Monday Night Football game, but that was also an awful Monday Night Football game at the same time. That was a weird ending. I've never seen a team take a penalty and then score a game-winning touchdown. That was just weird. It worked, though. The Ravens are 3.5-point favorites, which after last week kind of surprises me after the loss on Monday night. And then seeing, I guess, the Chiefs have a comeback victory. I'm very surprised that honestly the Ravens are favored because I'm taking the road team here in prime time. I'm thinking the Chiefs are coming in hotter. They're coming in with another statement. I'm taking the Chiefs here, especially with Marcus Peters out for the season. Too diverse of a passing attack, too high powered for the Ravens to stop. Max, what are your thoughts?
I found myself really overthinking it, to be honest with you, when I was looking at this game, because I said to myself, yeah, the Chiefs won that game and Mahomes was doing what Mahomes does in September. He's never lost in September for a reason. But they, at least in the first half of that game, they were getting outplayed in every facet of the game by Cleveland. And yes, I'm not taking any credit away from Cleveland. Cleveland's a top 5 team in football, but that was a little worrying. And then I saw the Ravens. The Ravens, it was kind of this back and forth game. They won. They lost in a really heartbreaking fashion to the Raiders, even though I think I'd still put them as a better football team than the Raiders. I was like, okay, it's a home opener for the Ravens. They have a terrible track record against the Chiefs. Is this the year that they can finally, shock everyone, beat the Chiefs, especially coming off a deflating loss? But then I really thought about it, and I was like, I can't overthink this game. Mahomes is undefeated in September. The Chiefs are just a better football team than the Ravens. The Ravens are still figuring out their running back situation. Literally, their entire depth chart went down with injuries. And there's still questions about that defense in general. I mean, I think, yes, they have a very solid secondary, but there's still some guys. Jimmy Smith isn't playing. Marlon Humphrey seems to be the only corner right now that was there last year. They have a lot of new guys coming in and playing that role, and that's just screams trouble to me against the high-powered offense in the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are going to win this game, and I think they're going to cover pretty easily at 3.5.
No, I completely agree. I'm gonna ask this to Chris right here. Is there any chance you disagree with us?
No, I mean, I like the Chiefs. I think right now they're the best team in football, and I think Lamar Jackson's gonna have a bad year, but I just don't think he's gonna be able to score enough points against the Chiefs. I mean, this offense is just absolutely phenomenal, and they can score on you really quick. Ravens have shown they can score quick, but I just don't know if Lamar Jackson's gonna be able to do it tonight.
Okay. And I'm actually, just because I'm so interested in this game, Marissa, what are your thoughts here?
I have the Chiefs winning. We saw last week that you can never count the Chiefs out just because they have this high-powered offense. You can't count them out. The Ravens, they rely on Lamar for a lot now this season, especially with their running back core going down. Besides now Tyson Williams, they did bring in running back to back him up, but at the same time, the Chiefs just have a more stacked roster overall on defense and on offense. And I didn't really like what I saw out of the Ravens offensive line. You weren't giving Jackson enough time to really throw the ball, and then trying to run it like they have done before and are really strong at it. They really couldn't get a running game going either.
No, I don't disagree at all, and especially with the running back. I think Lamar's going to have another really nice night. I just don't see that being enough against Patrick Mahomes. Now let's go on to Monday Night Football. The Detroit Lions, who put up a cute comeback effort against the 49ers last week, but the first half was how that game should have went, where the 49ers went up by 30 because the Lions are a bottom 5 team in football, are going to Green Bay and to take on the Packers. The Packers are 11-point favorites, and Max, after Aaron Rodgers put up an absolutely Josh Rosen-esque performance is what I'll call it, a putrid performance to open the season. What are your week 2 expectations for him?
Well, guys, as you guys remember from last week, unfortunately, my mortal lock of the Bills destroying the Steelers did not happen. So I have started 0-1 this year in mortal locks, which is something that I'm not proud of, and I'm pretty down bad about it, if I'm being totally honest. So what is my redemption this week? My redemption is just like Aaron Rodgers' redemption this week. Aaron Rodgers had a terrible week 1, and so did the Packers altogether. If you guys had Aaron Jones in fantasy, I'm so sorry for you. If you guys had any Packers players on offense, I'm so sorry for you. Listen, we both have something to prove, myself and the Green Bay Packers. We need to prove that we're going to fight strong this year, okay? I'm proud of my mortal lock record from last year, and they're proud of their record from last year, and they're a good football team. So let me tell you something. They're going to go out, and they're going to destroy the Lions. Aaron Rodgers is going to ball out. Aaron Rodgers is going to prove to everyone that he still belongs in the league, that he's not disinterested in playing football. He's going to destroy the Lions, and my mortal lock will hit this week. So give me the Packers to win this football game outright and to win big.
So 11-point spread. Are you betting it?
I really want to, but after seeing how the Lions almost pulled off a shocker last week, albeit it was kind of, fluky in the way that they got it. No, I will not be betting that cover, but I do expect the Packers to win outright.
I agree. Honestly, it depends. Like, I felt like that was fluky in its own way too. I think they picked on a somewhat depleted Niners secondary that's starting Jair Alexander. I don't think will be able to get that kind of attack. So honestly, I'd feel comfortable betting it if I felt like betting, but it's not something you go out of your way to bet, in my opinion. But Aidan, what are you feeling on this game?
Yeah, I'm taking the Packers as well. I absolutely have Aaron Rodgers in this Green Bay Packers team bouncing back after an abysmal Week 1 performance. I'm an Aaron Rodgers guy. I think after he hears some of the slander after the week he just had, he's going to bounce back and absolutely torch this Lions team. Now, the 11-point spread, I could see the Packers winning this game by 17, 20 points, something like that. But I am a bit uneasy because the Lions, they fight. We saw it last week with the Niners. We all predicted it coming into the season. This is going to be a bad football team, but also a scrappy one. And after the week the Packers just had, I could see the Lions maybe keeping this game at least somewhat respectable, or, maybe they're down by 17 or 20 points late, but then they get a late score to cover the spread. So I see the Packers winning this game, absolutely, but the spread is a bit uneasy for me.
I think that's how everybody's going to feel about betting this game. And that's why Vegas does it like this. They want to confuse you. They want to make you overthink. And ultimately, they want to screw you out of your money. But if you don't want to be screwed out of your money, make sure you subscribe to the TWSN Patreon, because that's going to wrap it up for our show. And if you want to make money day in and day out, we have guys putting up picks every single day and especially great content every week on Football Sundays. We have this show. We have articles coming out through the week. We have a lot of great beat reporters. Marissa is one of them right here, as is Matt. We have a lot of great beat writers covering a lot of different teams. So if you want to stay up to date on everything football all season long, follow our analysts, but also follow TWSN as a whole on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Like I said 4 times already, just going to reinforce it because I want you guys to make your money. Subscribe to the TWSN Patreon. And last thing I'm going to say is have a great week. We'll catch you next Sunday.
Hello, and welcome to the TWSN Patreon page. Here we will provide you with the sports betting tips, picks, and information in order for you to become a successful gambler. We have 5 packages that I think really do an incredible job of providing the information tailored to you, what you want, and what your sports betting needs are. For more information, reach out to the TWSN team, but we have a ton of stuff coming your way. Content from fantasy football, sports betting for UFC, NBA, NHL, and of course the NFL. We are so excited to be able to bring this service to you, and let us know if there's any more information you need.
Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now because it's the place that it all goes down.